Hello everyone, and welcome back to the BlytheLife Racing channel. It's Tim Blythe here. Just kidding. Anywho, well, today is Sunday. We went out to the track. Me and my pops went out to the track Friday evening at Brainerd's. I did the Powerglide and Protorque converter swap. Went out to test that for the first time. It went pretty badly. As far as, trying to do something, trying to go faster. But a few things happened to take note of. Number one, this thing does not like to spool very well when it's hot outside. That's because this converter is a lot tighter, but it's also more efficient. But when it cooled down, when the weather cooled down, it got up on the trans brake and up into the RPM a lot better. Anywho, well, the first pass we got up there after waiting not too long in line. Got up there on the line, and I'll show you the video. That guy right there, you can see him backing up like 4 times, and I'm sitting there heating up. It's 185-degree coolant temp. My inlet air temperatures are over like 200, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? So I'm just sitting there. I didn't cut the engine on. I don't know why. I should have just shut it off and waited for the guy to stage up. But he does this like 4 or 5 times. And by the time we finally get lined up, it's so hot I can't even build any boost. So it's just revving up and cutting out. It's just too hot. I can't get the trans brake to build enough RPM to actually get me in my boost window to start pushing me up into the RPM window that I need to be at. So that was a failed run. So I was like, alright, whatever. I let the car cool down. It got to like 190 something at the end of the track. Got back, let it cool down, and then over there at Brainerd's they were having 2 different races. There was they had the 440 bad boys, and then they had the Outlaw Society or something. So they had like a big race that next day, that Saturday morning, that they had a bunch of guys out there tuning for. And then they also had the regular street cars, which Brainerd is not a huge place, but they can run some cars. But it was just a little bit over capacity for making, a bunch of hits. So, and it's about 2 hours away, so I didn't want to keep my dad out there for too long. So I decided, no, we'll leave at 10 o'clock, get back to the house at about 12. So we got it back in the lanes. We finally got up there, ready to go. My coolant temp was at 113. Make my burnout. I'm rolling through to about 140 degrees. It's awesome. It's good. So I'm like, all right, this is gonna be sweet. Everything's nice and cool. It's all cooled down. The sun's gone down. It's gonna be nice. So I get up there, stage. Well, I guess before that I do a burnout. And the first thing I notice is the RPMs don't really pick up. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I just I didn't stay in it long enough or whatever. But I roll up to the beams, lay it to the floor, it starts picking up, gets to 3,800, and I'm like, all right, and it just stays there. It doesn't start popping or banging, and I was thinking, I don't know what's going on here. Because you're kind of up there and everything's going on and you're really not looking at anything besides, I check my RPM, make sure, it's starting to rise. And then once it starts rising, I go ahead and start looking forward and then light off the button. And it kind of goes and then, okay. And then it just doesn't do anything and then it starts picking up RPM and taking off. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, the converter's a little too tight or something like that, and then I shift into high gear and it just, so I was like, all right, that was not good. So I get my little time slip, get back there, and I'm like, oh, look at this. All right, that's 6.4. That's not too bad. No, it's actually a 6.8. But anyways, what actually happened was after I checked the log, come look at it. Here is this line here is when I'm on the button that activates the trans brake. The second it dips down is when I let off. So right here, directly when I let off, manifold pressure is 3 pounds. That's wastegate. That means my CO2 is not coming on. I had it set to leave at 6 pounds of boost at 4,100 RPM. Never happened. So it took all the way to here where the red line is before I start getting into my operating RPM. The time difference between launch and getting into my operating RPM is about 4 seconds. You can't really say, hey, well, let's just add or take away 4 seconds from this number, but you could realistically take away 1.5 to 2 seconds off of that number there, and then you're down into 4.8. That would be pretty quick. And then you still have, another 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds before, you get to the end. And then you can see here, right here is my shift into high gear, and it dropped it down all the way to 4,000. So after looking at that, I noticed, the boost was climbing a little bit. That's just because the more RPM you get, the more exhaust flow, the more those wastegates can't keep it at 3 pounds. I mean, that's a lot of exhaust moving to keep it down at 3 pounds. So I was like, well, maybe I never turned the CO2 on. So I checked the bottle and it was off. But then Dad was like, I'm pretty sure you turned it off whenever you got back here, turned it off and got out of the car. So I was like, okay. Well, I don't really have any way to check that because I didn't turn on a camera inside the cab because couldn't find the MSD card and all this other stuff. Or not MSD, jeez. Micro SD card and all that. So there's no way to tell. But whenever we were loading up the car and I got out, and to get out of the car I have to get out on the passenger side. Well, I pulled down the little CO2 line and it purged it all out. So I was like, geez, now I have no idea what happened. But then I was investigating, and what I found was, if you look right here, this is my CO2 line going to the wastegates. It's too close to this header, it melted. That means that I don't have any control over the turbos. That means that all the dome pressure going to the top of the wastegates is being purged out. So effectively, I ran that whole pass with wastegate, which is 3 pounds, and then it kind of picks up to around 6 pounds, which is essentially all motor, which is very promising for that converter and also for the car. 6.8 on all motors, pretty good considering that I'll be running 30 pounds of boost. So, I mean, I've got, 22 pounds, 23, 24 pounds that I'm adding on top of that. Not to mention, once you get into the operating range, up here at around 5,500, 6,000, you go from, 3 pounds of boost, might be 500-ish horsepower, 600 horsepower on this combination right now, up to, 1,300 horsepower. If you're consistently making that all the way down the track, it's going to go a lot faster. So it's not all bad. It was very disappointing because something like that, I mean, all you have to do is notice something like that. But it is good to know what, little weak links you have. It is kind of random that it just did it this time because I've been running this for, I think I've made like 8 passes on it, and all of a sudden now it does it. Might have been whenever, I was over there and that one guy was tooling around on the line and just got so hot, whenever I was trying to get it up on the brake, but it finally just melted that. And you've got that pressure in the CO2 line. It has like 20, 25 pounds of pressure. So when it heats up and it gets all malleable and you got 20 pounds of pressure, it just blew it out. But anyways, that's what happened. So, I mean, it wasn't the best experience. It wasn't the worst experience. It's given me some hopeful insight. It went straight down the track. That means that anti-sway bar is, not restricting anything. It didn't lift up anything like that. I mean, it did a 1.5 60 foot, which is absolutely horrible. But it's also means that I think I can run a whole lot more boost off the line and not pick up, because a 1.5, 1.4 would start wanting to pick up the front end, and I don't believe it really even teetered the front end, which is a very good thing. So if you can get it to leave at a higher RPM with more boost so you can get in that operating range quicker, that means you're going to go faster every single time. Because the name of the game is to get into your RPM window where you're making power and stay there and climb RPM. And so you can climb through your gear ratio. You can get into high gear, get to 1-to-1, and then start making RPM, and that just directly relates to mile an hour. And that means you're going to go faster. And the quicker you can get there, that means the faster ET you're going to run. So that's all you're trying to do. Get in that window, get into high gear, get in that RPM window, make RPM, make speed, and get there as quickly as possible. That's how you make power. That's how you make power and speed. Or that's what happens when you make power. You make speed and stuff. I just remember. I think that's pretty much all I had about this.